The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning for this CE Daily webinar, the second in a regular series that we're running. First up, I'd like a quick confirmation that you can all hear me. Can I please get some people clicking on that little hand icon on the screen on the top left of the webinar control panel that you can see on your screen? Okay, that's great. I can see those hands. Thank you. I'll put them back down shortly. I'm Murray Griffin, CE Daily's editor, and with us today in a virtual sense is EPA Victoria CEO John Merritt. I'll introduce John properly in just a moment, but in the meantime, let me explain how this session today will work. John will give his presentation, then I'll throw in a question or two, and then we'll take a further 15 minutes or so to answer your questions. Everybody is set to mute so that we don't hear each other's background noise, but you can type your questions through at any time, including right now, by typing them into the box on the control panel that says type questions here. You can do that at any time, and we encourage you to take full advantage of that chance to ask questions based either on what John has to say or on anything else related to EPA Victoria or environmental enforcement or the role of EPAs in dealing with greenhouse gases. We'll deal with all the questions at the end when I'll read them out to John along with the questioner's name and organisation. If you have any problems along the way with sound quality, please try switching to the alternative of what you're using. That's either the audio from your computer speakers or headset, or by calling in on your phone, and just make the change using the details in the audio panel on your screen. Okay, I can see that most people we're expecting have arrived now, so let's get underway. Now, I vividly remember John's first major speech after he took up the position of EPA Victoria CEO. It was back in March. It was a breakfast briefing for employers, and I think it's safe to say that even though it might have been a bit early in the day, John had the full attention of his audience, because what he told them was that there would be more prosecutions under his watch, and that those who did the wrong thing and didn't quickly get their house in order could expect to end up in the paper. Now, John made it very clear that the EPA's attention on providing support for good performers wouldn't waver at all. But he also told the audience that the EPA could get more bang for its buck, to use his phrase, by making sure laggards and polluters don't undercut top performers. My first reaction was, well, that's newsworthy. My second reaction was, well, isn't it interesting that these days a regulator saying that it will come down on polluters should be newsworthy? And I'm looking forward to hearing John talk today about how a modern regulator should position itself in its dealings with those who are doing the right thing and in its dealings with those who are not. Well, since that talk, the EPA has been in the news for other reasons as well, most notably for recent legislation that has spelt out its powers to regulate greenhouse gases, a development that could prove extremely significant given the current uncertainty about pricing carbon. So it's with great pleasure that I'd like to hand over to John so we can hear his thoughts on the task confronting the EPA and how it's responding. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, Murray.
Okay.
You're passing it to me, is that right?
Yes, here we go. I'll just, your slides should, I'll just a minute and we'll get your slides up. Yep, there we go. We can see your slides, ready to roll.
Thanks, Murray, and good morning everyone, wherever you may be. Can I just start by thanking Murray and CE Daily for the opportunity to do this webinar, and also I think for the service that's provided. When I was contemplating coming to the EPA, one of the big attractions is that irresistible opportunity to be in what I believe to be the issue of our time, the challenge of our time, and to be in it during a period of enormous change and evolution. And probably in no way is that more evident than what comes across our screen every day through CE Daily, where you you see these almost hourly reports of policy decisions from governments around Australia constantly trying to innovate and find a way to tackle some of these challenges. So it's a pleasure really to try and support the forum and to engage today. I think also, rather than just make this technology just another way of giving a speech, I thought I might try and use it to be a bit more reflective on the work that we're doing and why, and give those people who are interested enough to try and understand it an opportunity to get perhaps some insight into our thinking here and how we're going. Murray's asked me to talk about a couple of things in the context of the transformation of the EPA, particularly what businesses can expect from us as a modern regulator, some of the new powers he's alluded to. He also asked if I would touch on some issues around the harmonisation of environmental laws around the country, and a final part of his note was if I might make some mention of what we could learn, if there's anything to be learned in the environmental challenges from occupational health and safety, because some of you would be aware, prior to joining the EPA, I've been accountable for the health and safety of workers in Victoria as the Executive Director of WorkSafe Victoria. I might just start then by trying to give some context to how I see the role of the environmental regulator. In the last couple of days I've been chatting with one of my colleagues, Dr. Brian Burton, who in her own time runs a radio program on Triple R here in Victoria on Sunday mornings called Radio Marinara, all things sort of coastal, I suppose. And this week Bron's had the opportunity to interview David Suzuki, who's been in our country doing a number of speeches. Really just a fantastic opportunity, I'd imagine. And Suzuki's often fascinated me, and I often sort of use his quotes and listen to what he's thinking and the like. And a quote of his which I've reflected on a lot in recent times is this, when he says, "In the environment movement, every time you lose a battle, it's for good. But our victories always seem to be temporary, and we keep fighting them over and over again." And what struck me about that quote really is it's one of those occasions, I don't actually agree with Suzuki on this, and it's not that I think I know more than him, because clearly I don't, but I disagree with him because I don't want to agree with him. I don't want that to be true. And it's an important, this issue of winning and losing and battles and struggles and the part that they play in challenges like we face with the environment is enormously important to me and has a big impact on how I see the role of regulators going forward. The other issue which weighed heavily on me in the last couple of days, and I was reflecting on in the context of today's webinar, was on Wednesday. I was out at a workplace that was Sims Aluminium out in Laverton here in Victoria, and we were commissioning a plant which the EPA has invested about $750,000 in, which will significantly reduce waste from the recycling process, and ultimately we'll see that facility out there which produces all the aluminium for every engine that's made in every car in this state. It'll produce no waste at all. What sort of struck in my conscience was that as we were leaving that factory, I was reminded that there's a small little garden in the front of this nondescript cream brick office with rather large sheds, the sort of thing you find all over the place in that part of Victoria and part of Melbourne. There's a small garden at the front of the office and a small plaque in the garden that marks an industrial accident that happened at that plant in 1986. One of the worst incidents that occurred in our state. 4 workers lost their lives. Another worker received burns to 90% of his body and should have died, but in fact is still alive and still working today. The reason I was thinking about and reflecting on that was twofold. One, that workplace, actually the one that we are putting money into, is very well run. It's a good business, an enormously important part of our future in the environment because it can recycle almost anything, and this is a business which is really important to us. But I was thinking about it in the context of Murray's challenge to me about what, if anything, in the environment do we learn from that safety side. And the one thing that really does strike me that is different is that in health and safety, when you look at success and workplaces and organisations where things are done particularly well, when you probe beneath the surface and peel away the layers of the onion to the core, you find that at the heart of that improvement was failure.